Aryna Sabalenka's dirty plan to humiliate Viktorija Golubic caught on camera. What started as a simple match turned into something far darker. Every serve, every stare. It felt like a message, not a rally. The cameras didn't just catch tennis, they caught intent. Whispers began courtside. Was this strategy or something personal? Fans could sense it. Golubic wasn't just fighting points. She was fighting pride. And when the footage leaked, the tennis world froze. Was this competition or calculated humiliation? Because after that day, nothing between them would ever be the same again. It was supposed to be just another early round match, a quiet court, the kind where you could hear the bounce of the ball echo across the stands. Viktorija Golubic walked in with her usual calm, the kind that made her one of the most respected but least talked about players on tour. Across the net, Aryna Sabalenka warmed up like a storm waiting to break. Fierce eyes, clenched jaw, every swing louder than the last. They had faced each other before, but this time felt different. Sabalenka wasn't smiling. She wasn't joking with the ball kids or nodding toward the crowd. She was locked in, too locked in. Something about her movements felt deliberate, almost rehearsed. The commentators noticed it first. Sabalenka's energy looks controlled, almost restrained, one said. No one yet realized that control could be the calm before something explosive. Golubic had spent weeks preparing for this match. She studied Sabalenka's serves, her patterns, her emotional swings. She knew Sabalenka fed off chaos, so her plan was simple. Stay quiet, stay composed, and let the match speak for itself. But even the best strategies crumble when emotion enters the court. The first set started with tension disguised as routine. A few baseline rallies, an early ace, polite applause. Yet every time Golubic scored, Sabalenka's eyes flickered. A small glare, sharp and fleeting. At first it looked like focus. Then it began to look personal. Halfway through the first set, a moment caught everyone's attention. After losing a long rally, Sabalenka walked straight past Golubic's side of the court to fetch a towel, something no top-ranked player usually does. It wasn't against the rules, but it wasn't polite either. Fans on social media noticed instantly. That looked intentional, one tweeted. Another wrote, "Is Sabalenka trying to intimidate her?" The energy shifted. Golubic's rhythm began to fade. Her footwork, once light and precise, turned heavy. Between points, she looked confused, maybe even hurt. The match wasn't just physical anymore. It was psychological. Sabalenka's shots grew louder, heavier, crueler. Each forehand sounded like a challenge, each grunt like a warning. When she hit a winner, she celebrated longer than usual, not toward her team, but toward Golubic. The crowd sensed something off. A murmur spread through the stands, a blend of awe and unease. Then came the moment that would later go viral. After an unreturned serve, Sabalenka let out a roar, and as she turned back, her lips moved. Cameras zoomed in later, and lip readers online claimed she said, "You don't belong here." Whether those words were real or imagined didn't matter anymore. The narrative had begun. Within minutes, Twitter lit up with clips of the outburst. Some called it passion. Others called it a plan. A dirty plan to break Golubic mentally. Golubic tried to stay focused, but her eyes told another story. Between points, she glanced toward her coach, searching for calm, for something familiar in a suddenly hostile arena. But Sabalenka's intensity never wavered. It was like she wanted not just to win, but to make her opponent feel it. The first set ended 6-3, Sabalenka. She walked to her bench slowly, smirking, while Golubic stared at the ground. Cameras captured everything, every expression, every unspoken word. And that's when the whispers began. Was this match just tennis? Or was it something much darker? Because that night, when the replays hit social media, fans didn't see a scoreline. They saw humiliation unfold point by point, and the footage that leaked next would make sure no one forgot it. When the second set began, the crowd could already feel it. The air wasn't the same. The tension that had simmered quietly in the first set was now thick enough to cut through. Viktorija Golubic tried to reset, bouncing the ball 3 times before each serve, whispering to herself, "Play your game." But the moment the ball left her strings, Aryna Sabalenka's eyes locked in again. Fierce, predatory, almost personal. The first 2 games were brutal. Sabalenka started targeting Golubic's body with serves, a tactic that felt deliberate. Each hit seemed to say, "Move out of my way." Golubic winced after one serve clipped her arm, shaking it off with a half smile. But the camera caught it, that flash of disbelief in her eyes. Then came the trigger. At 2-1, Golubic hit a looping cross-court shot that landed right on the line. The crowd gasped, the line judge hesitated, and Sabalenka raised her arm, challenging the call before the umpire could even speak. Hawkeye confirmed it. The ball was good. Golubic looked relieved, but Sabalenka laughed. Not the nervous kind of laugh. The cold kind. She clapped mockingly, turning toward Golubic and saying something under her breath. The microphone barely caught it, but one phrase echoed, "Lucky shot." That moment split the arena in 2. Half the fans booed. The other half stayed silent, stunned. Golubic walked back to the baseline, her jaw tight. She didn't respond, but silence sometimes speaks louder than words. From then on, Sabalenka stopped playing tennis. She started playing Golubic. Between serves, she began staring across the net, bouncing the ball slowly, daring her opponent to break eye contact. After each winner, she shouted louder, fist-pumping straight in Golubic's direction. Commentators tried to justify it. "That's just Aryna being emotional," they said. But even they could feel the line being crossed. The trigger point reached its peak at 4-3. Golubic, finally gaining momentum, delivered an incredible backhand down the line. The crowd roared. It was her moment, a spark of resistance. But as she turned toward her box to celebrate, Sabalenka smashed her racket into the court, the sound echoing like a gunshot. She shouted something in Belarusian, sharp, aggressive, and then laughed again. That clip would later go viral under one caption, "This is not competition, this is humiliation." Golubic paused. You could see her shoulders tighten. For the first time in her career, she looked shaken not by the game, but by the disrespect. Still, she walked back to the line and whispered, "Stay calm." Yet her next serve clipped the net. Then another. Then a double fault. Sabalenka smirked. The crowd murmured. Cameras zoomed in, catching her lips move again. Some fans claimed she said, "I told you, you don't belong here." Others swore it was something even worse. Whatever it was, it worked. Golubic's rhythm broke completely. Social media exploded. Within minutes, clips were uploaded. Sabalenka mocks Golubic courtside. Tennis goes toxic. Is this bullying? The hashtags #ChurDirtyPlan and #Sabalenka vs Golubic began trending within the hour. Even other players noticed. One WTA pro tweeted, "There's passion, and then there's crossing the line. That was uncomfortable to watch." Another replied, "Respect is part of the game, period." Golubic eventually lost the second set 6-2, walking to the bench with quiet dignity. But the damage was done. The handshake at the net wasn't just cold. It was non-existent. Sabalenka barely looked at her, tossing her towel aside as cameras swarmed. And as the footage hit the internet later that night, fans began to ask the same haunting question. Was this rivalry born out of competition or cruelty? Because in that single set, Aryna Sabalenka didn't just win a match. She lit the fuse for a controversy that would burn through the entire tennis world. By the time the match highlights hit social media, the story had already taken a life of its own. Clips flooded Twitter, Reddit, and TikTok, each one edited, slowed down, zoomed in on Sabalenka's expression, the mocking clap, the smirk after the final point. The caption was the same across platforms. Aryna Sabalenka's dirty plan, caught on camera. What began as a match was now a movement. Fans weren't just watching tennis anymore. They were dissecting body language, lip-reading phrases, and debating whether Sabalenka's behavior was psychological strategy or emotional abuse. Within 24 hours, hashtags like Chuck or Sabalenka shamed and Justice for Golubic were trending across Europe. Commentators, journalists, and former players joined the conversation. A retired champion wrote on X, "There's a difference between competitive fire and public humiliation. Every player knows that line." Another added, "What Sabalenka did was intentional. That wasn't adrenaline. It was cruelty dressed as confidence." But the most striking reactions came from ordinary fans. Under one viral video, a top comment read, "You can see it in Golubic's eyes. She wasn't just beaten. She was humiliated." Another wrote, "I used to respect Sabalenka's power. Now it feels like power turned into poison." The tennis community split overnight. Supporters of Sabalenka argued it was overblown, claiming every top athlete uses intimidation. They posted clips of Serena, Sharapova, even McEnroe. Moments of passion mistaken for disrespect. But others weren't buying it. "This wasn't about emotion," one user replied. "It was planned, calculated. Look at her timing. Look at her smile." Soon, sports talk shows joined in. One anchor asked bluntly, "Was Aryna Sabalenka trying to win a match or humiliate a rival on purpose?" Clips of Sabalenka's previous emotional episodes resurfaced. Broken rackets, heated exchanges, sharp comments. Old wounds reopened. Every shout from her past became new evidence. Meanwhile, Viktorija Golubic stayed silent. She skipped the press conference, citing exhaustion. But silence only made the fire grow. Fans began speculating that she had been bullied off court, that she was filing a private complaint with the WTA. Rumors spread fast, each one bigger than the last. Then came the interview. 2 days later, at another tournament, Sabalenka faced reporters. Someone finally asked, "Do you regret how you behaved toward Viktorija Golubic?" Her answer was calm, almost too calm. "I don't play to make friends. I play to win. If someone can't handle intensity, that's not my problem." Those words detonated online. Screenshots of her quote went viral in minutes. Commenters didn't hold back. Arrogant. Heartless. So it was a plan after all. Even WTA officials were forced to respond. A short statement read, "The WTA expects all athletes to maintain respect and professionalism at all times." No name was mentioned, but everyone knew who it was aimed at. Golubic eventually broke her silence on Instagram, posting a simple photo, her racket resting on a bench with the caption, "Respect is part of the game." It said everything without saying a word. Fans flooded the comments with support. "You handled it with class. She can't break you. We saw what she did." But beneath the praise was a growing unease. Something bigger was brewing, not just between two players, but within the sport itself, because this wasn't just about Aryna Sabalenka's outburst anymore. It was about how far an athlete could go before passion became cruelty, and how much the audience was willing to forgive when victory was at stake. The storm had officially gone global. Every headline, every reel, every tweet painted a picture of a villain and a victim. And as the world demanded answers, one question echoed louder than ever. If this was her dirty plan, how far would Sabalenka go to keep winning? When the dust began to settle, it wasn't just a tennis match anymore. It was a scandal echoing through every corner of the sport. Sponsors, officials, and fans all wanted answers. Aryna Sabalenka's dirty plan had become a global headline, and the silence surrounding it was making things worse. Within a week, the WTA launched an internal review. Nothing formal was announced at first, but insiders whispered about unsportsmanlike conduct and behavior unbecoming of a top seed. Reporters outside. Sabalenka's training camp said she looked defiant but cornered. Her smiles during practice were brief, forced, as if she knew every camera lens was waiting for a crack in her armor. Then came the fallout that no player ever wants, the sponsor's hesitation. One apparel brand quietly pulled a promotional post featuring Sabalenka's face. Another company froze her upcoming campaign. Their statement was polite but clear. "We stand for respect in sport." The headlines were relentless. Sabalenka's silence deepens the divide. Golubic gains global sympathy. After viral footage, WTA faces pressure to act. Aryna finally broke her silence in a late-night Instagram live. It wasn't an apology, not even close. Her tone was sharp, unapologetic. I'm not going to say sorry for playing hard. I play with emotion. Always have, always will. People who don't understand that have never been in my position. The stream hit 1 million views in hours. Fans flooded the chat, some defending her, others tearing her apart. One comment captured the chaos perfectly. Confidence is power. Arrogance is poison. Which one are you, Aryna? Meanwhile, Viktorija Golubic continued her quiet response. She played her next tournament with calm focus, no social media, no interviews. The crowd treated her like a hero, cheering louder for every point, chanting her name after every win. In one post-match interview, her voice trembled slightly as she said, "Tennis should bring out the best in us, not the worst." It was subtle, but powerful. And it hit Sabalenka's image like a serve straight to the chest. Media outlets began framing it as the redemption of Golubic. Talk shows discussed her resilience. Documentaries replayed her silent stare during that infamous match. The narrative had flipped. Golubic became the face of grace under fire, while Sabalenka became the symbol of unchecked aggression. Even players started taking sides. A few top-ranked women quietly liked Golubic's Instagram post. Another publicly tweeted, "There's winning. And then there's respect." Only one matters in the end. Sabalenka, feeling the isolation, lashed out again. During a press event, when asked about Golubic's newfound fan support, she replied with a half-smile, "Good for her." Maybe this drama helped her get the attention she couldn't earn on court. That single line ignited a second wave of outrage. Within hours, hashtags like Sabalenka disrespect and Team Golubic were trending again. Sports anchors replayed her quote in slow motion, dissecting every word. But behind the fiery statements and public defiance, something deeper was breaking. Reports from inside her camp suggested tension. Arguments during training, missed calls from her PR team, sponsors demanding an apology. Yet Aryna refused. To her, admitting guilt meant admitting weakness. For Golubic, the backlash brought both pain and peace. She didn't ask for this spotlight, but she used it with quiet purpose, donating part of her next tournament winnings to a sportsmanship charity. Her subtle grace only widened the gap between them. By the end of the month, Sabalenka's ranking remained high, but her reputation was crumbling. Fans booed during her walk-ons. Interviewers avoided eye contact. Even her victories felt hollow, because in tennis, reputation is currency. And once it's spent, no number of trophies can buy it back. And just when it seemed the controversy had reached its peak, a new video leaked. A behind-the-scenes clip recorded the night before the match, showing Sabalenka talking to her coach, and saying words that would shake everything again. The storm of the match hadn't ended. It had followed Sabalenka and Golubic into the locker room, where whispers and tension crackled like static electricity. Aryna stormed past the press, her face a mixture of anger and disbelief. Every step seemed to carry the weight of the earlier match, echoing the unspoken message she had sent on the court. Viktorija Golubic, still catching her breath from the grueling rallies, remained composed. Leaning against the wall, her eyes locked on Aryna's, a quiet defiance radiating from her stance. The room seemed to shrink around them, the air thick with anticipation. Sabalenka's voice sliced through the silence. "Do you even realize what you did out there?" Her tone was sharp, dripping with accusation. Golubic's lips curled into a faint, controlled smirk. Staff tried to intervene, but the two athletes were locked in a silent showdown, each unspoken word heavier than any racket swing. "You think that call was fair?" Aryna snapped, referencing the controversial moments from the second set. Calmly, Golubic replied, "I play every point I can. You can't blame me for your frustrations." Fists clenched, breathing shallow, Sabalenka stepped closer, narrowing the space between them. "I'm not done with you," she hissed. Golubic didn't flinch, matching her stare with quiet courage. Staff finally separated them, guiding each to her corner. Cameras captured the silent promise in Golubic's eyes. This confrontation was far from over. Outside, the crowd awaited post-match interviews, unaware of the drama unfolding behind closed doors. The rivalry had now entered a new, volatile chapter, one that would echo far beyond the tournament courts. The leaked match footage sent shockwaves across social media. Clips of Sabalenka's mocking gestures and stares went viral, fueling debates about whether her behavior was strategic or cruel. Hashtags like "Cool Dirty Plan," "Kogi Sabalenka vs Golubic," and "Cool Team Golubic" trended worldwide. Inside Sabalenka's camp, tension simmered. Sponsors hesitated, PR teams scrambled, and even her training sessions became scrutinized under the weight of public attention. Every word she spoke was analyzed, every gesture dissected. Golubic, on the other hand, thrived in silence. She skipped interviews, focused on training, and let her next match speak for itself. Fans rallied behind her grace under pressure, calling her the true embodiment of sportsmanship. Every victory she claimed now carried a narrative: resilience over intimidation. When the two players crossed paths again, this time at a charity event, the cameras picked up subtle signals: narrowed eyes, measured smiles, and controlled gestures. The media sensed the next clash was inevitable. This rivalry had grown beyond rackets. It had become a battle of reputation, psychology, and global perception. Tennis wasn't just about points anymore. It was about who could command respect and who would crumble under scrutiny. Some moments define careers, others define eras. Was this just an upset, or the beginning of a new rivalry that will shape women's tennis for years to come? Let us know what you think in the comments. Hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned. Because in this sport, the next eruption could happen any moment.